Namaste and my pranams to everyone. We would like to start with our pranams, our respect, offering our respect from inside to Maharshi Patanjali, the father of this yoga classical. So I request you all to sit straight, with keep your spine straight. Fold your hands into prayer pose and disconnect yourself from everything outside and connect to the self and then to the divine. Yogena chittasya padena vacham malam sharirasya chavaidhyakena yopakarotam pravaram munina patanjalim pranjaliranatosmi Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwara Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinam Vadhitamastu Mam Vidvishavahai Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. Hari Om. We may start now.
Namaste. So, namaste and welcome everyone who are joining us on Zoom and Facebook Live, locally and globally, to Naveda's 80 is the New 50 webinar panel discussion number 24. I am Veena Dansingani, founder, director, and alopecia hair loss specialist of Naveda Integral Wellness Center in Hong Kong, which is the first value-based integral wellness center offering a transformative health experience to its clients in Hong Kong. In the month of June, Naveda has taken the initiative to bring awareness and educate people about authentic, traditional, and classical Ashtanga Yoga as a way of celebrating International Day of Yoga. The International Day of Yoga has been celebrated annually on the 21st of June since 2015, following its inception in the United Nations General Assembly in 2014. This is a special addition to Naveda's campaign 80 is the New 50 panel discussion, which was launched on the 21st of January 2021. A very powerful and meaningful campaign inspired by our director, Mr. Lal Darianani, who turned 80, or should I say the new 50, on the 15th of April 2021. It really takes something to remain happy, healthy, active, and purposeful at his age and look and feel 30 years younger than his chronological age. As we have all witnessed and seen, that with age people tend to develop some physical, mental, emotional, social, and even spiritual challenges. Things like dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, heart diseases, depression, loneliness, and foremost, losing purpose, joy, drive, and passion. As we have heard that yoga offers multi-dimensional benefits from all aspects, whether it being physical, mental, emotional, social, and spiritual. as yoga is essentially a spiritual discipline based on an extremely subtle science which focuses on bringing harmony between mind, body, and soul. It is the art and science of healthy living. And according to yogic scriptures, the practice of yoga leads to the union of an individual consciousness with the universal consciousness. From the first week of June, in our panel discussions, we have invited masters and doctorates from the field of yoga to share their wisdom about Ashtanga Yoga, which is the 8 limbs of yoga of Maharishi Patanjali. And so far, we have learned and discussed 6 limbs, which are Yama, Niyamas, Asanas, Pranayamas, Pratyahara, and Dharna. And today, the panel discussion will be focused on the 7th and 8th limb of yoga, which is Dhyana and Samadhi, in English translated as meditation and oneness. So today, in our panel, I would like to welcome all our guests. First, we have Dr. Sanjay Nagakar. He is a renowned microbiologist, PhD from the University of Hong Kong. He's published more than 100 scientific papers, research articles, reports, and conference abstracts. He has invented 83 technologies in preventive healthcare, environmental science, ecology, and nutraceuticals functional foods. He will be interacting with all our guest speakers about the scientific aspects and possibly even talking about the validation of yoga in this particular manner. Thank you, Dr. Sanjay, for being here.
Namaskar.
Welcome to this panel discussion. And then we have Mr. Lal Darinani, who is Naveda's director and 80 is the New 50 campaign ambassador. He is a business tycoon who retired 10 years ago. However, even till today, he is open to learning and investments, especially in the area of growth and development, especially now in the area of wellness, which is a booming industry. Thus, he continues to invest in his own well-being and others by supporting Naveda to bring in a paradigm shift in the way people deal with their health and well-being, and also offers a purpose to our senior citizens to live a more purposeful and meaningful life. He truly is a role model and inspiration to all those he crosses paths with. So welcome, Mr. Darinani. Thank you for being here as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for your consistency of being on this panel for the last 6 months. And now I'd like to introduce our very special guest speakers in the panel today. Dr. Vikrant Singh Tomar. Thank you for being here. He is the founder director of United Consciousness Global, an initiative operating in over 6 continents of the world for establishing divine beyond divides. He's encouraged by the blessings of His Holiness Dalai Lama. He also is a conveyor of Global Institute of United Consciousness, which is working for development of world's first integrated manual of humanity and manual of human happiness. He is the founder director of Project Inc. USA, one of its kind organizations to promote Vedantic philosophy and cultures across the world. He is also the board member of European Yoga Federation, Italy, prestigious organization disseminating yoga teachings in all countries of Europe. Today, he will be shedding light on the 7th and 8th limb of yoga. So thank you so much for being here, Dr. Vikrant.
Thank you. Just a small addition that I'm convener of United Consciousness, not the founder director. Thank you.
Okay, sorry.
No, that's okay. Carry on.
Yes, okay. We are also grateful and honored to have our previous panel guest speakers, Dr. Radhesham Misra and Sandhya and Nitin Patik. Is that right, Patik? Yeah. To join us back to conclude our yoga discussion series today. A little about Dr. Misra ji. He is someone who has been teaching traditional classical yoga of India across the world since 1993. He is a direct disciple of Dr. Jaydev Yogendra in the lineage of Paramhans Mahadeva Ji, Devsa Ji. Dr. Radhisha Mishra, also known as Pandit Ji, is the founder president of Ujjain Yoga Life Society, Yoga Life Global, Yoga Life USA, and Yoga Life Brazil. He is a founder of Satyadhara Yoga Life Ashram. I do not know how to pronounce the Brazilian name. He will tell us.
That's okay. I would request to leave it because you have already spoken about this too in my previous lecture, so everybody know.
No, we have new audience as well, so everyone has to know.
Okay.
Right? And yes, and he is an executive board member of the Indian Yoga Association. So he shared with us the first two limbs, which was yamas and niyamas. And then we have Sandhya and Nitin Patik.
Patki.
Patik. Okay.
Patki.
Sorry. Yes. Welcome back once again. Thank you for being here. Sandhya and Nitin Ji are the founder and CEO of the New Age Yoga Institute, Mumbai. They use their combined experience, knowledge, and wisdom to deliver powerful lessons from the Institute. Sandhya Ji has taught over 15,000 students personally and over 20,000 with the Institute. So what began as a chance encounter has now blossomed into a lifelong mission to teach yoga to as many people as possible. She is a QCI Ayush certified yoga teacher and evaluator, and Nitin Ji is a YCB certified yoga teacher and evaluator. He too has vast experience teaching others the practical and spiritual ways of this practice. They shared with us about the third and fourth limb of yoga, which is asanas and pranayams. So once again, thank you all for being here. Welcome, and I acknowledge everyone's presence. So yes, thank you. So I would like to now start with Dr. Tomarji. Thank you for being here. So today we are concluding this session with the seventh and eighth limb of yoga, which is on Dhyana and Samadhi. So please tell our audience what this is all about.
Thank you, Vinaji. If all 8 limbs of yoga are to be considered as disciplines of learning, then Samadhi is the PhD and Dhyana is the post-graduation. You can call it MPhil also. But before we go to PhD or MPhil also is Master of Philosophy, otherwise also. We need to maybe in 1 or 2 minutes recap. Yoga itself has 2 meanings. One is yuj melane. It means to bind together, as you rightly said, self to supreme. It is also called Kaivalyam, that has been discussed in the 4th chapter of Yoga Sutra. In this definition, only couple of people, only very less number of people will be called yogi in this definition, because this definition says yogi is one who is liberated. So very less number of people may qualify. But then there is another definition. Yujre iti samadhihi. Any practice, any spiritual practice that takes you towards that Samadhi is also yoga. So any practice, any spiritual practice, it is taking you towards Samadhi. So here, all the people who are traveling on the path of Samadhi, even if they have not reached, they will be called as yogis, practitioners, yoga sadhakas. So what is in this second definition, Samadhi? I'll come to Dhyana later. First, we'll talk about Samadhi because it connects with the definition of yoga. So this Samadhi is discussed in detail in the 1st chapter of Yoga Sutra. And last is Kaivalyam. So what is Samadhi? Samadhi. Dhi means mind. A means fluctuations. So when mind fluctuates, you call it adhi. And if your mind fluctuates a lot, you can't sit quiet, you can't sit comfortably, your mind fluctuates so much. So many thoughts are bombarding in your mind. May it be because of troublesome in relationships, may it be because of your career, may it be because of your own health or whatever. If your mind is bombarded with hundreds of thoughts, then this fluctuation of the adhi leads to vyadhi, that is disease. So adhi, fluctuation of mind, leads to disease. Every issue in mind has impact on some or the other tissue of your body. Biology and psychology are only taught differently in universities. They are not different subjects. If you had a bad day, you will have headache in evening. So your psychology impacts your physiology also. So that leads to vyadhi. So now if mind fluctuates a lot, adhi leads to vyadhi. Or the second option we have is, instead of going towards vyadhi, I can control my mind. Sam means together, balance. Means, as I told you, fluctuations. Balancing the fluctuations. Dhi means mind. Now I have another option to balance the fluctuations of mind. The moment I stop the fluctuations of mind, I get established in Samadhi. So life is a choice. And the instrument is Dhi. Left, like in number line, minus and plus, both are there. 0 is mind. If you go to minus, it is Vyadhi. And if you go to plus, it is Samadhi. Either disease or divine, it's a choice. So this is what is Samadhi. But when we say balanced mind, what does that mean then? A mind which is balanced, what do we mean? A mind which is equipoised in victory or failure. A mind which is equipoised when somebody joins our family by birth or somebody leaves by death. A mind which is equipoised even if you earn profits or have losses. In any case, if your mind is completely stable, it means you are in Samadhi. Now there are two options for Samadhi. Yoga Sutra says, generally the practices of Yoga Sutra focuses on this stable state with closed eyes. This is Yoga Sutra. Vedanta says, even if your eyes are open, you should remain in the same state. Pleasure, pain, profit, loss, being very stable. So you can live in Samadhi, open eyes, every moment. Now the question comes, how to reach that level? And then there are many options. Gita says, go for Karma Yoga, Upasana Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. There are many options in that. I will take one more minute and then I'll leave for further question. Fine. So there are many options, different yogas you can pursue for this. But again, let's go back to the question. Yoga is to connect. Then connecting what with which and why? Connecting what with what and why? So now it talks about complete philosophy. Like, if I connect my body and senses with the breath, it is called asana. And why? Fit, throbbing body. First. Second, if I connect my breath with my mind, it is called pranayama. It will give you energetic body and mind both, fresh mind. So far it is physiology, you notice this. But next, when you connect your mind with your intellect, buddhi, it is called pratyahara. It provides chitta sthiti, a peaceful mind. When you connect your intellect to a focused point, it is called Dharna. It leads to ekagra chittam, focus. Then when you connect your intellect with the self, it is called dhyana. It gives you chit sthirta, completely sthir chitta. That is the realms of psychology. You saw, we had philosophy, physiology, then we came in psychology. Last is, if you connect self with supreme, it is called samadhi, chitta shunyam, param shanti. So this is how they all are connected and they all are there. So if it is difficult to follow for the people who have just initiated, they can further ask questions. So this is, I tried to define what is samadhi, an extremely balanced state of mind, come what may. Like James Bond 007. If you see his movies, whatever comes to him, he always used to say, shaken but not steered. So yes, I was shaken for a bit that there used to be a doll in Japan. You hit that doll, it goes down and again it used to erect back. So a person in the state of samadhi is like that doll. In a second, he comes back. He restages, he reestablishes his state of samadhi. But that samadhi has got various dimensions and various types in it. So this is what it is.
Wonderful. So does one have to practice all the 8 or all the 6 limbs in order to reach that state?
The answer is 100%, 100%. No ways. But there are two options in that. Option one, for an ordinary person, it is must to start from yam, niyam and proceed sequentially. Because yam, niyam are must. Himalayan yogi used to say, if you are not having yam and niyam, then what you are following is not Ashtangic yoga, but a Viklangic yoga, a yoga that has handicap. Because if you lie, if you don't follow those yamas and niyamas which are being discussed, then there will be certainly fluctuations in your mind. If you don't follow asteya, parigraha, certainly mind will fluctuate more. So the answer is 100%. But in Gita, Krishna says there is an exception to it. If a person was yoga rudha, it means if a person in his past lives has really attained the yogahood, he is called yoga rudha. It means his consciousness has already reached to that level and he died because this instrument could not work further. So he had to leave the body. When this person takes birth, then he is given a clean chit of visa directly to all limbs are already cleared. So that's why this, as a child, even when he will sit, he will go in deep samadhi. For example, Ramakrishna Paramahansa and many such people, they were yoga rudha. They just came for last, like it is just only one strike left to liberation. So these people, they don't need to follow it because actually, literally, they have already followed it. So the answer remains the same. It's 100%, maybe this lifetime or any lifetimes, you have to go through it. There is no shortcut.
Very well.
So wonderful. I would like to just come in over here with the definitions of user and would like to slightly differ here, not only with Dr. Tomar, you and many others who consider yoga as user. Since we are talking of Ashtanga Yoga, which is related to Maharishi Patanjali's philosophy, which itself is the path of action based on the philosophy of Sankhya. I would like to say that referring to Maharishi Patanjali's initial sutras, Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha, where he speaks about Nirodha of the modifications of the mind. I feel, and referring again to Sankhya's concept of duality, which is Purusha and Prakriti, I personally feel that what we are pursuing, the path of action of Patanjali, is not yoga, but actually it is Viyoga. Because here we are not trying to unite anything, rather we are trying to separate out the Purusha and Prakriti. And that is the ultimate aim of Patanjali. And I'd like to have a discussion on that.
I would like to add, it's not something to differ, but I would like to add. There has been a great scholar of Sanskrit literature, Panini, and he was a Vyakaranacharya, same like Patanjali. And he has the three definitions for yuj dhatu. Yujir samadho, yujir yoge, yujir sanyame. All three are there. And they are all complementary to each other or synonym to each other. We can, but it's all in the same. Just adding few things.
Absolutely. Sanyam is definitely there. It's a pathway, but I'm talking about the ultimate. So what does Tomar have to say on
that? If you want me to talk about whether yoga is actually Viyog, so philosophy is a very interesting subject. You can prove anything. And that too a philosophy that is coming from last 15, 20,000 years. So you have so many experts speaking from variety of dimensions. You may call it ocean, you may call it a water drop, or you may call it vapor, but actually they are the forms. So in Gita also Krishna said, yoga dukkha sanyoga viyoga. When you detach yourself from all dukkhas, again it's a yoga. And similarly, as you said, when you said from Prakriti, you actually probably be meaning this, that from the lesser reality to the actual reality. Maybe detaching yourself from the lesser reality of Prakriti and attaching yourself from to the absolute reality. So as I told you, there are many ways you can see the same truth. So I don't feel that what you say that if it is Viyoga, that's perfectly fine. Vedanta also says this, that yes, it is, Vairagyam is also certainly a basic requirement to attain Samadhi. So Vairagyam, whatever is lesser,
maybe also says the same thing. Definitely.
You may call it Prakriti or anything else. So yes, we choose to agree with what you said.
Since we are talking of Ashtanga Yoga in this panel.
Perfect.
Yeah. And
yeah, go ahead.
No, please.
No, go ahead.
No, what I was saying, basically, because we are talking of Patanjali and we are talking of these are not two, I don't feel it is a lesser reality. These are, in fact, Sankhya, Kapila Muni has defined both as equally right, equally prominent realities. That is why the dilemma and the argument between Vedanta and Sankhya. And Sankhya is the Pradhan.
It's an eternal discussion.
Correct. It's an eternal.
And the better thing that I feel is that whatever, even if you call it Prakriti or you call it lesser or you call it apara or para, whatever the way you want to define it, the essence is that we are one. It is one that takes many forms. And when one takes many forms, so like Raman Maharshi was once asked whether God is with form or without form. So beautifully he replied, if you think you are with form, then certainly God is also with form. If you think you are formless, even God is formless. So how do you identify yourself with is the way you identify around. Raman Maharshi was asked how to behave with others. So beautifully he replied, there are no others. It's the same vibration around. So if you follow this definition, Krishna keeps on saying in Gita, I am the mountains, I am the river, I am everything, whatever you see. So there is no question of differentiation. When Krishna says, I am the rivers, I am the mountains, I am everything, whatever you see from your five senses, they are my own manifestations. Wherever you see Shri, wherever you see valor, wherever you see glory, know I am there. So subtly, all manifestation is that. And that's why what you said, in spite of being such a great scholar of Vedanta, saying it again and again, Adi Shankaracharya, Aham Brahmasmi, still he will come and write, compose Bhaj Govindam. So when you make a Govinda statue, it's a Prakriti, it's a tangible statue. But still, such a scholar of Vedanta will say Bhaj Govindam Moodamate, because he knows that we understand the actual reality. But it is easy to connect. I feel good to connect. I can remember, I lost my father when I was small. I can easily remember my father whenever I want, but it feels good to have his picture in my home. It helps to connect. So if you call that picture lesser or Prakriti, that's fine. But when I will see, I will call it my father, not a picture or not a print. So I will again insist on united consciousness, that it's the same consciousness, takes different forms and different words.
You spoke about Sri Adi Shankaracharya. Interesting discussion. Adi Shankaracharya ji also considered Sankhya as a Pradhan Vallabh, and since then this whole argument is going on. I would like to again come back to Patanjali, because we are talking of Ashtanga Yoga over here. If we were talking of Vedanta, certainly there are so many references and so many topics which can be spoken about. Of course, there is, ultimately it is all one. We all agree to that. But Patanjali certainly considered Sankhya is based his whole philosophy, whole path of action on the Sankhya philosophy.
True.
And Adi Shankaracharya ji also, he said that, yes, I am also ready to borrow certain concepts from Sankhya. He did consider Prakriti and Purusha as
I just added on.
so Prakriti and Purush, he did consider them as different. His only point was that if these are the only two things, then there will be an imbalance and there has to be something which is on the top. Only thing is, I think he was a good marketer. I personally feel.
I'm going to interrupt you, and I'm going to ask Dr. Sanjay's scientific perspective on this.
Sure.
Yeah, means I'm listening all of you, and it's very interesting. And as Dr. Tomar mentioned that there is a philosophy, right? And there is a no end of philosophy. It's like endless, right? Means if we are born with a consciousness, very simple is that, right? You can travel anywhere, right? In 2020, I'm just quoting a little bit, in 2020 January, we organized the World Ramayana Conference in Jabalpur. And there is a Dr. Gumasta, is very fond of like very spiritual guy, is a doctor by profession, but he is a leader to do all those kind of things. And this is like a third or fourth conference in a series. And what was surprising, that we had one section, it called Science of Ramayana. Okay. And the people from NASA came. This is interesting. From people from NASA came. There are people, those who are like a professor working in a science, nothing to do with the the spiritual and all this world, but they are talking about Ramayana. And then the question raised, like, can someone say like how old the Ramayana is? So they were talking about the Dwapar Yoga, Treta Yoga, and all those kind of things. Krishna Sri Krishna came first or Ram came first, or what is the like hierarchy? There's a lot of discussions, right? I'm talking about the philosophy, try to understand how the arguments and the discussion go when you start believing in certain things. NASA guy came in and he said like, I can give you the evidence. So people ask like, so the maximum people went like, okay, 5,000 years old or 6,000 years old, right? Can I ask you the same question? Any idea what do you think like means how old the Ramayana is?
Anyone?
Kali Yuga, they say it is 468,000, and otherwise, if you go backward, then that becomes a lot of years.
It
But
reminds me
have
of
proof.
an answer
Yeah.
given by Swami Chinmayananda.
Okay.
When Swami Chinmayananda was asked this question, question was very what Dr. Sanjay said. But whether Gita actually happened, when it happened, when Krishna was narrating 700 verses, what the others were doing. It takes so many hours to narrate verse, what others were doing, why were they were waiting. So beautifully Swami Chinmayananda replied. He said that there was a conference of physicists on gravity, and whole best of the world physicists came in that conference, and the chairman of that conference declared that in this 2 days conference we need answers of 3 questions. Question number 1, the conference was on gravity. Question number 1, whether the fruit that fell on Newton was apple or pineapple. Second, whether that fruit fell on his head, leg, or directly on the ground. And what was the exact time when this fruit fell. So these were the objectives of that conference. And as you could understand, Swami Chinmayananda said, what difference does it make? If wherever it has fallen, gravity is the fact. Similarly, if Gita can contribute in your life, learn it, read it, apply it. And if it doesn't contribute in your life, even if it has occurred sometime, what difference does it make? So I follow what Chinmayananda said. Let archaeology do their own work, and let people who learn the life skills from those scriptures do their own work. Let archaeology come with the facts and figures, because archaeology keeps on changing what they say. Because it's not because they are wrong. Actually, they are so open for new things. So this is what
it's very interesting, Dr. Tomar. So like Dr.
Very nice.
Tomar is actually already answering where I was heading to.
Okay.
Actually, it's very interesting. So that's where I was heading to, because we were talking about the Patanjali or Vedanta and all that. And then that's what I'm saying, that when this conference, why I took this particular example, when the NASA guy came, he said like, okay, we measured, like we went through the shlokas, and in shlokas, whatever the nakshatra position and all those kind of things happen, we calculated, because in NASA we have the position. And when they started calculating, they said like, though we in the solar system is like we are moving around the sun, but the whole solar system is traveling in the universe linear way. It's never repeating the galaxy again second time in the things. There is a one linear direction. There's no circle in the galaxy. So when certain kind of stars and all those kind of things are mentioned as slokas, they went up to 18 lakhs years. That was NASA's. NASA has a whole directory like when the star position and all those kind of things in the galaxy. And that was very surprising thing, right? Okay, so that is the first thing what happened, like when people are digging down, what they're helping people to make the things clear. So there are 2 things. One is the philosophy, as Dr. Tomar said, what Gita is preaching. Okay, but then many people say, okay, I don't want to believe Gita, whether it is there or not there. So that's where like all this conference is happening, and the new generation of the scientists are trying to prove, no, this is there and all those kind of things. So basically try to put. Now, third thing come in the science, whether we talk about the Patanjali, I'm just want to like give a fruit for thought, right? In today's science, DNA was discovered in 1951. So genetic science is exactly 70 years old. whatever we talk about genetics. But the scientist, or even we as a student, what we have learned in 1980s, we say no, it is wrong, because we have learned and we say no, it's moving. We have learned something new. So I don't get into debate, but I always have this very curious question that why people make our such a beautiful science or the literature as a stagnant science. Okay. Patanjali, doesn't matter how many years back, don't we think after that the progression took place? Or any literature in the past, don't we think if the progression take place? When the progression take place, we have to add into the foundation.
Absolutely.
And to use the progression what is available today. Otherwise, we are not talking about today. We cannot talk about yoga science. Then we cannot add the science. Then we can take, okay, we are discussing yoga history. Because you are talking about 2,000, 5,000 years back science. And in 5 years, 1,000 years, human body has learned a lot. We are a continuous consciousness process. We keep learning and we are evolving, right? Those things are our, what you call, the basic foundation. And we are building the foundation on a top of it, because we have taken the source from there. And that's why this philosophy. So like I'm talking about see, there are a scholar. If you're a scholar, then you go into the subject. But suppose there is no scholar, another normal layman, a rickshaw wala, or a chai wala, or like any like carpenter, and he want to do, okay, one day I want to do yoga. He will not bother about what is Patanjali saying and sutra and all those kind of things. He will say like, how this yoga can change my life. See, that's what the main context is today. That if we have to make yoga popular all around the world, we have to talk in a very simple language, that how a person is standing in a remotest area in the world, who has no idea about the India, idea about the Patanjali, Vedanta and all those kind of things. And he is believing that if I adopt yoga in my life, this yoga can change my life for a betterment, right? So I think like that is why we try to have a discussion on this Ashtanga yoga, to give like a more insight. The reason, like in the first discussion we started, Dr. Tomar and Dr. Mishra knows about it, and we discussed with Sandhya and Nitin also, that in the foreign countries, and you guys all traveling a lot, and you know that yoga is turned more like aerobics and gymnastic. So somehow the original people try to tell people that yoga is much more deep rooted. It has a more value to it. And today, as you say, like it has a connect, it's a yoga basically, right? So it's not it's a more than exercise, right? So question is like in the contemporary world, where we have this fancy, this aerobic gyms or exercise or gymnastics, and they put this fancy yoga, how we uplift the value of the authentic yoga and the science of this yoga and the philosophy of that yoga for the benefit of the common man.
Sir, on couple of points, I very much agree with you that ultimately this yoga has to benefit a person who is at a lower level, grassroots level. But at the same time,